What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, we got some pretty darn good news to talk about. So this was actually something kind of unexpected, specifically with recent events and we'll talk about, in case you missed it, but the TMNT, the last Ronin game that is being made and still currently being made, right? I'm super excited for it. It had a lot of, positivity to it, and even the developer themselves, I think they're on the upwards track. I think things were hopefully going pretty well, but then we had some pretty big layoffs, right? So to catch you up on that, this game, I don't know how much in trouble, you want to say that it is, but the studio lost roughly 50% of their workforce. Now, whenever I imagine that you lose half of your studio, I imagine the game would suffer at least a little bit, if not significantly. Now, we don't know. We don't know what those layoffs did. We don't know the state of the game specifically right now, but that's actually why this article caught me by surprise. It is good news. The interview itself actually went up today. So while they don't mention anything, I imagine they had this talk with the co-creator of TMNT in general. I imagine they had the talk with him at some point, maybe in the last month. I mean, these things take some time, to write up and all that jazz. But the progress on the game that he says has been really good, and he's really impressed with what he's seen. Now, there's some corporate talk in there, right? Like, do you really expect him to say, yeah, the game kind of looks like garbage, right? Of course he's going to say positive things, and I don't, not believe him just because of, corporate talk. I believe him, right? And again, as I've said in the past, the developers making this game, Black Forest Games, they're on the up and up. I think they did a phenomenal job with the Destroy All Humans remake, both 1 and 2. I mean, I really think they could have made their own Destroy All Humans game, and maybe that's still in the cards eventually for them, but they're a very talented bunch that this is a chance to, they're doing something very different, and there is a possibility of it not working out, but I think that this is a talented group that's ready to take that next step and establish themselves as a top-tier studio. I really believe that. Now, losing half of the team is an issue, but again, let's read actually some of this article. We won't read the whole thing. This was a Game Informer interview, but let's just look at the positivity, right? When they're talking about the state of the game. Okay, so he says, everything I've seen, we've been interacting with a development crew, and that sounds like current, right? And it looks like some of the sets and some of the characters have literally walked right off the pages of the comic. So beautiful, so fantastic, and so pretty much every fan of The Last Ronin that I've talked to is really seriously pumped. We get to have an older version of the Turtles just for us in a video game. And they say towards the end of the interview, they kind of went back to it, and they said, adapting The Last Ronin as a video game using the latest and greatest artisans and writers and coders and technology. It's great to see the Turtles being able to adapt into that, he says. And if it's done the way we all hope and the way that it's taking shape, then I think we'll get to play in this arena for a long time to come, and that's up to the fans to decide. We're going to do the best job we can and hope for the best. That, incredibly positive. Actually, so positive that it certainly sounds like this is the beginning of something, more, right? If the game, and that is about as straightforward as you're going to get, I guess, from these kind of conversations, but it's pretty much saying, hey, we're willing to do more as long as it sells. And I really think a TMNT game, there's been TMNT games and some have been better than others, but they do relatively okay. And I think specifically in this market, if it comes out, if it knows what it needs to be, if it knows what it wants to be, I really think it can be successful. And again, I have a lot of confidence in the developers. So I'm really happy we got this. Again, they don't talk about anything, but it happened today. The article goes live today. I don't know, he says it in the current time, right? He's not necessarily talking about the past when he says, hey, we talk to these guys all the time, and it's have you talked to them since since a very bad thing happened to them? And that's not to make light of it. I made a whole video on that situation. I think that's a good sign, right? As long as the game's still going, and like I said earlier, is it possible that you can bounce back from losing as many people as they did? I think it's possible. I just can't imagine nothing being impacted. You know what I mean? Something had to have been impacted by what happened. And again, does that mean the game gets delayed 6 months from when maybe they thought it could come out fall 25, and now maybe it's like spring 26. They can plan. I mean, that's developers do that, publishers do that. They can plan that far out. Is that what's changed? Who did they get rid of? Like, what exactly did they do for this game? Were they replaced, etc., etc., right? It's an interesting and kind of depressing when you think about it just from that angle. But this article, I think, actually balances it, because it sounds like the game is going good. And to leave it here, and then we'll see, next time we hear from this thing, I think that's an okay spot, to leave it. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.